people across the world tune into Live 8, the Make Poverty History campaign. 225,000 people marched through the streets of Edinburgh, urging the G8 leaders to listen. And in Iraq, at least 20 people have been killed by a suicide bomber who targeted new recruits to the police force in Baghdad. The headquarters of the United Nations mission in Kosovo has been targeted in a series of explosions in the capital, Pristina. Nobody was injured in the blasts, which happened shortly after nightfall. Matt Prodger reports from Belgrade.
Eyewitnesses say the first explosion happened in the car park of the United Nations mission in Kosovo, part of a secure compound where entering vehicles are checked for explosive devices as a matter of course. At least 3 UN cars were set ablaze in the explosion. A short time later, there were 2 more blasts, one outside the offices of the Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe and another outside a Kosovo government building. There were no reports of casualties. In the past few months, there has been an upsurge in politically motivated violence in the province. The president of Kosovo, Ibrahim Rugova, was the target of an assassination attempt in March, and the offices of a political party were bombed soon after. The latest explosions come during a major review of Kosovo's progress since it came under international administration in 1999. The province's ethnic Albanian majority is impatient for independence from Serbia and Montenegro. Matt Prodger, BBC News, Belgrade.
In other news, a bomb has exploded on a train in eastern Turkey, with reports of 5 people dead and 20 injured in the province of Bingöl near Suvarän. The bomb was detonated as the train passed over it, derailing a number of carriages. Turkish officials have blamed Kurdish guerrillas for the attack. A train sent out to help with the rescue effort also came under attack, but there are no reports of any casualties. A large fire has broken out at a state-owned oil refinery in the southern Pakistan port city of Karachi, but so far no casualties have been reported. Authorities are investigating the cause of the blaze at the national refinery, which is a plant for manufacturing lubricants. Dozens of fire engines have attended the fire on the outskirts of the city. Indian armed forces have been deployed in a massive relief and rescue operation in the western state of Gujarat, where more than 120 people have been killed in floods and mudslides. 300 people trapped in train carriages for 2 days as the waters rose have now been rescued. More than 400,000 people have been evacuated to higher ground. France is threatening to arrest and send back to Italy dozens of militants from the 1980s. The former members of the Red Brigades have been living in France for years, but the war on terror means they may end up in jail in Italy.
30 years ago, this man was one of the most wanted in Italy. Sergio Tornaghi was the leader of the Red Brigades in Milan. He was given a life sentence for ordering the murder of a businessman that fled the country before his trial. He's now settled in France and believes the activities of the Red Brigades are best left to historical TV news programs.
I'm ready to face up to my responsibilities in front of the families of the victims of terrorism. But I also want the political establishment from that period to take their share of responsibility too and say what they did. It's too easy to put all the blame on people like me from the extreme left.
The Red Brigades killed hundreds of people in the 1970s as they tried to overthrow the Italian state and introduce a Marxist government. They even managed to murder the former Prime Minister Aldo Moro and his bodyguards. Members of the organization were given a way out of the violence by the socialist former French President François Mitterrand. He believed the Italian government of the time relied on rough justice to tackle extremism and humiliate the left. In an unwritten accord, he allowed members to come to France as long as they stopped political activity. But the deal's now over. The war on terror has changed the political landscape, and they're no longer welcome.
The courts have started sending back to Italy former Red Brigade suspects, and the French government has refused to block their extraditions, saying it's a legal matter and up to the judges. Rome reportedly has a list of key Red Brigade exiles it wants back. Some, like Tonagi, have remade their lives here. He says he regrets the violence he and others became caught up in and believes his extradition now would serve no purpose.
I'm not sure what I can do to help the victims. They have lost what is most precious of all, someone in their family. I know what I'm talking about. I'm a father with my own family.
He says if he is rearrested, he is prepared to take his fight to the international court. Chris Botman, BBC News, Bordeaux in southwest France.
Now, there's no better rating in the world of haute cuisine than 3 stars from the Michelin Guide. But with possession of the stars comes the stress and worry of losing them.
Alain Sonderins has won 3 Michelin stars for 28 consecutive years. His foie gras ravioli with morel mushroom cappuccino, his viennoise of Brill with Thai spices and popcorn are reputed extraordinary. The way he creates each dish to complement a wine, sublime. There are chefs who chop off a finger for all that culinary glory, all those gleaming Michelin stars. Sonderins is giving his stars back.
There's so much mental stress in always having to be perfect. It's not that I don't still want to strive for perfection, it's just that it's such a heavy weight to bear.
This summer, Sonderins will change his restaurant into something a bit like this. More relaxed, a lot cheaper than the $500 a head he charges now. It's a big step down, but at least he'll be getting out alive.
French culinary history is littered with the corpses of chefs that couldn't cope, from the great 17th century cook Vatel, who committed suicide after a delivery of fish arrived late at a banquet for Louis XIV, to the Burgundy chef Bernard Loiseau, who shot himself 2 years ago after his rating was downgraded by another food guide.
France's most renowned food critic won't reveal his face so he can keep visiting restaurants incognito. He says the high-pressure system imposed by the guides doesn't always make for better food.
It's make a very stressed food. I mean, you can feel in the plate that everything is very nervous. There's a lot of character in it, but tension too. It's very impressive, like museum food.
For Sonderins, it's time to get back to the simpler things in life.
La liberté. La liberté.
Freedom, no more restraint, nothing superfluous, just the essentials. It's time to see what we can do with sardines.
Those who prefer 3-star foie gras ravioli and have $500 to spare will have to hurry. John Lawrenson, BBC News, Paris.
In sport, Venus Williams has won her 3rd Wimbledon singles title. She beat Lindsay Davenport in the longest women's Wimbledon final in history.
Victory for either player in this final would mark something of a renaissance, with Venus Williams bidding for a first Grand Slam title in 4 years and Lindsay Davenport aiming to end a major drought lasting 5.5. And it was the 29-year-old #1 seed who made much the better start, breaking the Williams serve twice on her way to winning the opening set, in which Williams, the Wimbledon champion in 2000 and 2001, never really settled. Yet she hung in there and somehow took Davenport all the way to a second set tiebreak, aided by a lucky net cord, and moments later by one of the worst line calls of the championships.
30 love. Davenport thought it was well wide.
If I did my job that poorly, I wouldn't be able to be out here.
Second best throughout that set she may have been, but Williams won the breaker to set up a decider that had seemed unthinkable just 20 minutes or so earlier. The final had become a contest at last and swung even further in Williams' favour when Davenport needed treatment for a back injury. But the world #1 responded well enough to put herself within touching distance of the title with a championship point in the 10th game of that final set. Back came Williams, though. The #14 seed saved that match point and 6 games later served for the championship herself. The longest final in history was won by the lowest seed to take the title, but a 3rd Wimbledon crown will ensure that Venus Williams leaps back up the world rankings once again. Colin Harrison, BBC News.
And that's all from the newsroom for the moment. Thank you for watching.
Hello there. After an unusually windy night across the far north, it's going to become less windy here as we go through the day on Sunday. And for many of us, we'll see fresher skies coming through with some sunshine, but also a crop of showers across parts of Scotland and also Northern Ireland in particular. We could see some quite heavy and squally ones around. But for many, it will start off fresh with some bright sunshine, as we can see across Devon and Cornwall and parts of Wales. But there are going to be some quite blustery winds coming in off the Irish Sea, blowing in some cloud, and that'll just hide the sunshine from time to time. And also across Northern Ireland, a dry start here, but those showers are certainly going to crowd in, as we can see across parts of Western Scotland to start off the day. Still fairly windy in the far north, but some brighter skies coming in for Eastern Scotland, many parts of Northern England into Western Midlands. Head further south and east, and we've got a great swathe of cloud giving us a scattering of showers, and they will gradually push away southwards and eastwards. But I think for parts of East Anglia and the southeast, that cloud and the scattering of showers could hold on for much of the day. Could affect Wimbledon, just an outside risk of a shower, so we'll keep you updated on that. But for many parts of Scotland, England and Wales, it's a fresh and bright look to the day with some sunshine, but a very different story for Northern Ireland and southwest Scotland by late afternoon. Plenty of heavy showers coming in here, really disappointing in those squally winds, but drier, brighter weather for northern and eastern Scotland. In the shelter, it'll feel beautiful, as it will do across northern England in towards Lincolnshire and much of the Midlands. As you can see, that cloud still shrouding much of East Anglia and the southeast with a scattering of showers. But we see brighter spells across central southern England and the Midlands, perhaps clouding over a bit more in Devon and Cornwall, but it should stay largely dry, as it will do across Wales. Just one or two showers scattered around the coast, but we will see some brighter skies. But the wettest place, I think that's definitely going to be Northern Ireland through the afternoon. We could see some quite hefty showers here, and showers is the name of the game again on Monday. Really quite an unsettled feel to the day. It's going to be cool and blustery, but that's not to say everywhere I'll see the showers. There will be drier, brighter weather with some sunshine around, just lifting temperatures up to around 19 or 20 degrees. And on Tuesday too, there's a little bit of unsettled weather as it comes in off the Atlantic. Been lots of cloud around, also some showers, longer spells of rain, but not everywhere is going to see that. Some drier, brighter weather for the far north and also parts of central and eastern England. And here, temperatures responding to the sunshine, lifting up to around 20 or 21 degrees. A little bit more settled for many on Wednesday, drier and brighter, particularly for many southern, western and northern areas. But again, a little bit on the cool side at 20 or 21. See some showers in parts of the north and also the southeast. One or two of them could be on the heavy side. That's the weather for the moment. Bye-bye for now.
There is a land of great diversity and incredible natural beauty. There is a land where 53 countries sit side by side, but not always comfortably. There is a land where 1,000 different languages unite more than 700 million voices. Welcome to my land. Welcome to Africa. Take a fresh look at Africa on TV, on radio, online. Africa Lives on the BBC. Africa Lives on the BBC.
Aged 12, Alec Weck escaped the war in Sudan and came to Britain. Now a supermodel, she goes back to her birthplace in search of her long-lost family. One Life, fashioned in Africa, Tuesday at 10:40 on BBC One.
Hello, I'm Deborah Mackenzie with the main news. Billions of people are said to have tuned in to the 10 Live 8 concerts throughout the world. But the focal point of Live 8 was Hyde Park in London, where 200,000 people were kept enthralled until midnight by more than 25 of the world's most popular acts. During the final moments, Sir Paul McCartney said he hoped the G8 leaders meeting in Scotland next week would heed the message of the concert and work together to end poverty in the developing world. The concerts have not been without their critics, however, with some arguing that the campaign is oversimplifying the issue of global poverty. Earlier in the day, Bob Geldof, the man behind the Live 8 events, introduced 24-year-old Birhan Waldu. She was one of the starving Ethiopian children featured in the original Live 8 concert who survived.
Now, for those who've been reading the press for the last 2 months, who question why we should even try, why we should accept the nullity of cynicism, and why we should listen to the voices of defeat, I'll tell you why. See this little girl? She had 10 minutes to live 20 years ago. And because we did a concert in this city and in Philadelphia, and all of you came and some of you weren't born, because we did that, last week she did her agricultural exams in the school she goes to in the northern Ethiopian highlands. She's here tonight, this little girl. Birhan.
Nelson Mandela appeared on stage in Johannesburg. He joked that he didn't make that many live appearances anymore, but on a more serious note, had this message for the G8 leaders.
I say to all those leaders, do not look the other way. Do not hesitate. It is easy to make promises, but never go to action. We ask our leaders to demonstrate their commitment and not engage with hollow promises. We want action. It is within your power to prevent a genocide against humanity. We stand tall and we await your direction.
It's estimated that about 225,000 people demonstrated on the streets of Edinburgh. The Chancellor, Gordon Brown, told an audience in the city that the fight against poverty in Africa was the greatest moral crusade of our times. Other news now, and a leaked document has appeared in the Sunday newspapers which suggests Charles Clarke has come in for criticism from Tony Blair. The revelations have forced Downing Street to insist that the Prime Minister has the utmost confidence in his Home Secretary. The papers say they've obtained minutes of a meeting between the pair during which Mr Blair apparently questioned progress on antisocial behaviour, prisons and ID cards. The confidential Downing Street report leaked to BBC News says government policies to cut the supply of illegal drugs to Britain aren't working. The study, shown to ministers 2 years ago, says there's been little impact on drug smuggling. Suicide bombers in Iraq have killed more than 20 people in separate attacks across the country. At least 4 police officers died in the city of Hilla when a man blew himself up while being searched outside the base of an elite police unit. A second suicide bomber detonated a belt of explosives in a crowd who'd rushed to the scene of the first attack. There have been a number of explosions in Pristina, the capital of Kosovo. The first blast happened in a secure compound housing the United Nations mission, where several vehicles were set alight, but no one was hurt. The UN's been running Kosovo since 1999. The Prime Minister is heading to Singapore today, where the International Olympic Committee is holding its final discussions on which city will host the 2012 Games. London is competing against Paris and Madrid, as well as New York and Moscow. The winner will be announced on Wednesday. Earlier, Tony Blair stopped off in Riyadh for talks with the Saudi leader, Crown Prince Abdullah. More from me at 5 o'clock. Now on BBC News 24, it's time for Click Online.
Hello and welcome to Click Online. I'm Stephen Cole, and this week we're talking about communications, but without the wires. Coming up, Wi-Fi is growing up. The new batch of hardware gives faster connections across longer distances. But is it enough to fight off WiMAX and developments in mobile communications? Also, putting wireless on the more remote parts of the map. Plus your emails and the best of the web. Wi-Fi. it's more or less pretty well established now. Prices have come down and installing a wireless network is, well, pretty straightforward. But while the technology is comparatively simple, making it work is anything but. Problems with range and slow connection speeds have been causing problems for many, many users. Chris Long investigates.
Wireless connections aren't new. In almost any big city, no sooner have you sat down, someone has whipped out a gadget that connects to the ether. Mobile phones, PDAs and notebooks of all shapes and sizes are reaching out wirelessly to the rest of the world. And the wireless internet revolution has also overtaken the home and office. Wi-Fi has been changing the way we connect our personal computers to the internet, and it just goes on and on.
Wireless technology uptake has been surprisingly big. Even though we all anticipated it, it really is exploding because more and more people are seeing that wireless networking can literally change your life. More people are having 2 or 3 computers or laptops in the home and coming to the realization that you can share your broadband, share your files and your photos wirelessly and sit outside accessing the internet while somebody else is upstairs doing their homework.
And there speaks someone who rather enjoys the fact that the Wi-Fi market is doubling every year. There are a number of standards, technologies and standards groups that are involved in Wi-Fi. There is 802.11a, 802.11b and 802.11g, which are the current standards of which only B and G talk together. There is the new Pre-N, which is a longer ranged and faster data throughput, but also talks to B and G. There is MIMO, which is the technology that enables the increase in range. And finally, there's the IEEE, who is the standards organisation that makes the standards that guarantee the technology talks to each other. Okay? And essentially it works one way. You get a modem that connects you to the internet, and you connect that to the wireless transmitter which transmits to the PCs around it. And you know that if it really were that simple, I wouldn't be talking about it.
I think probably people expect perfection, and perfection wasn't possible in the earlier versions of networking. So what that meant was that people needed to go out and buy additional products, things like an access point or an antenna, a booster. So they could still get what they wanted, but it required a little bit more effort. Whereas what we're seeing with some of the G versions, and particularly the Pre-N versions, that it's possible to get maximum output and speed quite easily from the beginning.
It all comes down to how much data you can transfer, and this is where range and interference come into play. It's just like crossing the road. Here the road is clear and you can get across it all, transmit data easily. Fill it with cars and that all changes, and the transmission ceases.
The 2 key problems we have with current networks is one is the speed of the throughput, or the amount of information it can transmit, and the coverage, the amount of space it can actually cover. And so what all the vendors are doing in the IEEE is saying, well, okay, we've got G, that's pretty good, it's stable, it's now secure, but what we need is the coverage and throughput. So let's look at the next standard. Now the trouble with the IEEE is, bless them, is it takes 2 to 3 years to get this standard going. And the end users now are used to wireless networks and they're saying, well, give it to us now. So as a group of vendors, we've said, okay, fine, what will be the key elements of this standard? What we did is we actually created, if you like, a product called MIMO, or a technology called MIMO. Multiple input, multiple output.
It's a simple idea. Basically, you give your signal a better chance of getting there by adding extra antenna to your Wi-Fi devices.
The easiest way of thinking of it is a system which has got huge ears and sends out not just 1 signal, but 2. And these 2 signals will bounce off the walls, off the ceilings and everything else. And at the other end are these huge ears that just collect all that signal back together again and put it all together, and you can see what you've got.
And this is Pre-N. It's not a new standard, it's a guess at what the new standard might be. All the same, it improves the Wi-Fi's lot, as it increases the range considerably. Hold on though, speaking as the man under the umbrella, if it isn't a standard, are there compatibility issues?
Fortunately, unfortunately, fortunately, one vendor's gone down that road, one vendor's gone down this road, and we've gone down that road. What we've said is, okay, we'll do MIMO, but we will make sure it will still work with B and G. So yes, you're investing in a new network, it will solve all your problems, and if we come to 2 years or a year's time and the standard isn't that, you haven't wasted your money because it still works with B and G, and that's where we are. So multiple input, multiple output, Pre-N, whatever you want to call it, it's addressing all the frustrations we've currently got with current networks.
The result is a range of new products that solve problems for Wi-Fi users. They aren't a standard and they aren't future-proof, but at least they work and solve some of our problems, which I think is a good thing.
Thanks very much, Chris. Well, with me now is Rupert Goodwins. He's a communications expert. Rupert, first of all, welcome back to Click Online. Rupert, we're in the middle of Soho, a hot day and quite literally a perfect hot spot, isn't it?
It is, yes. It's surrounded by people, all of whom are just relaxing when they could be working hard thanks to wireless technology. But although this is the perfect place for wireless hotspot, in fact, I expect we're surrounded by the stuff, you can't guarantee it. So what's happening now is things like BT's Fusion is the phone or your laptop or your personal assistant, whatever, will scan the airwave, find the best system for you at any one time. So if there's a free open hotspot, it'll latch onto that. If it's just a mobile phone signal, it'll latch onto that. And it'll do this invisibly, so you won't know what service you're using. You might do, but you don't have to.
And you wouldn't care, as long as you get
through. You wouldn't care. No, you might care according to the cost, because a free hotspot is preferable to a slow and expensive GSM connection. But all that will regularise as the networks start to build out against each other.
Is there any area, country, region, continent that's moving ahead faster and anyone being left behind?
The Far East is moving ahead the most quickly. The ideal combination of very high population density, very rich, very technological society, also very high levels of personal status, which also drives us. You must have the latest gadget, you must have the best connection, you have to be slightly better than everybody else. We're lagging along behind that a bit. On the other hand, it's sometimes better to be a little bit behind. You can see what works and what doesn't. You can cherry pick. And there's also the chance that the less developed world, we've seen it in Eastern Europe, we're seeing it a bit in Africa, will pick up the very best of this and revolutionise overnight. They'll pick up the very best wireless stuff that's out there, that's cheapest, that's shown to work, and just switch on overnight. That'll be very exciting.
And who is it who's going to pick up the bill for all this new technology?
That'll be us. It always is. What's going on now, is that different parts of the industry are having huge arguments over whose technology goes into the final standards. That's true in WiMAX. It's much more true of 82.11n. It's true in other wireless standards like ultra-wideband, and it may be true for the next generation of mobile phones. So there's a lot of arguments going on at the moment.
Last week we ran the news story about Intel's new chip as a one-stop shop, if you like. It's going to provide all the solutions in the world. Is that the way forward?
That is the way forward. It's further away than Intel's saying, or it likes people to believe. The idea of smart radios, cognitive radios that sit there, monitor the environment, decide for themselves what the best standard is for a particular job. It's very exciting. It completely changes the way radios work. You don't have standards anymore. You just have a radio and it just does everything for you. That's going to happen. The economies of scale behind it and the benefits it gives you are unavoidable. But we have to get through all this transitional period. Everyone's arguing about figures and digits.
Rupert Goodwins, thanks to you very much indeed. Nice to see you again. Yeah. Now, let's take a look at some of the tech stories making headlines around the world this week. First up, the US entertainment industry's attempts to thwart illegal file sharing have received a massive legal boost. The US Supreme Court has ruled that the peer-to-peer file sharing networks can be held liable when their users download copyrighted works without permission. The justices said Grokster and Streamcast have deliberately encouraged consumers to download copyrighted files illegally so they can build a larger audience and sell more advertising.
We went to the Supreme Court with three primary arguments in mind. The first is that the kind of conduct occurring on these systems was wrong, and the court in a unanimous voice addressed that issue and agreed with our view. Second, that businesses should not be able to profit from that kind of infringement. Again, the court in a unanimous voice agreed with our view. And third, and most importantly, that the opportunity for online companies was going to be thwarted by these kinds of entities. And again, the court looked and said this is harming market opportunities and sided with our view.
But many tech insiders worry the ruling itself might stifle innovation if software writers are held accountable for the actions of their users. The court tried to allay those fears by adding that a company can't be sued if it merely learns its customers are using its products for illegal purposes. A quick look at some other stories now. The Chinese authorities say more than 100 million Chinese users are now online, and that makes China second only to the US in the number of people on the net. China's economic boom has made computers more affordable, and around a third of those now using the internet have broadband. Apple has formally embraced podcasting. Its new version of the music download service iTunes and upgrades to the software on its iPods will provide a directory of 3,000 shows. Audio bloggers can send in their podcasts for inclusion in the list, although Apple will police the content on editorial and copyright grounds. Finally, Google has raised the bar in what we can expect from search engines. It's launched a free download which allows the user to manipulate 3D satellite images. But while it's called Google Earth, it's not truly global. Not yet, anyway. And you'll need a decent PC and graphics card and a fast internet connection to get the fly-throughs to work smoothly. MSN is planning to launch a similar system called Virtual Earth very soon. You saw it here first. Time now for you to have your say on the world of technology. And last time out, we were talking about those three little W's. Should we start putting the www in front of our URLs? Unfortunately, if we did, it would reduce the size of the address we can show on screen. So you tell us how you want to see the web addresses we show with or without the three W's. Emails to clickonline@bbc.co.uk. And that opened up the floodgates. From Gaurav Kale, I think that it's okay not to put the www on the screen. It doesn't make a lot of difference because nowadays the browsers are smart enough to get the URL. Microsoft IE and Firefox does this. And this? From Anthony Ryan, I believe that every time a web address is mentioned on the programme, www should be mentioned. And I'm a big fan of Kate Russell. She's very clever and nice looking as well. And from Ed Wicks in Nottingham, according to Wikipedia, depending on how the domain and web server is set up, a www website can often be accessed without mentioning the www, as long as the .com or other appropriate top-level domain is appended. Even this is not always necessary, as some browsers will automatically try adding www and .com to URLs if a web page isn't found without them. So bin the wwws. Thanks. And finally, this. From Koba Turkia in Tbilisi in Georgia. I think it would be good if you put full addresses on the screen, even when sites are reached without www, because their real and full address is including three W's. And the debate rages. And at the moment, the numbers are finely balanced. So keep those opinions coming in. Now, another fantastic video from a viewer.
Hello, my name is Guilherme. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm loving Click Online. The explanations are perfect, even for a non-experienced or for a pro person. The way the show is edited is awesome too. So see you around at BBC.
What can I say? That wonderful message was from 13-year-old Guilherme, who lives in Sao Paulo, a city we remember on Click Online because we had a lot of fun filming there one year. Now, as much as we like getting those video messages saying how wonderful the programme is, let's face it, they're the ones we like, but don't forget to tell us the opinions you have about other things too. You know the address, clickonline@bbc.co.uk. But thanks again, Guillaume, for those lovely words, especially about the editing. The producers loved them. Anyway, still to come on Click Online. The internet arrives in the French countryside, and Kate Russell brings us some sites that can be viewed absolutely anywhere. For those of us who live in the big cities, getting connected is not necessarily a problem. Broadband, wireless, it's all here. But the same cannot be said for people who live sometimes in the more isolated or rural communities, because some telcos have decided it wouldn't be profitable to connect them. So, faced with a future on dial-up, some living in local and rural communities have decided to make their own connections, as David Reed reports.
It's the sort of place that never changes, where the war dead are still remembered and where passers-by say bonjour in the street, not so much stuck in the past, but like slipping into an old shoe, comfortable in it. That is, until France's main telecommunications provider told the remote hamlet of 800 that it couldn't have broadband. All of a sudden, Réuto de Rondon began to pinch a bit around the toes. Time was when a ropey or non-existent internet connection was the same as being charmingly off the beaten track. Now, however, so many businesses and transactions and services for that matter are online that being badly connected is the same as being cut off without a cent. Or at least that's how it seems to the local tractor retailer, for whom the internet is an essential tool of the trade.
I think that if we want businesses coming here and thriving, we have to have the internet. It's a method of communication. It's a road. It's as if today we refuse to have a motorway leading here. We're already out the way. We don't have a local airport and aren't well served by rail. We can't be left behind in every field, or there won't be anyone left in the countryside.
A recent change in French law allows communities to be their own communications providers. It doesn't stop telecom companies from failing to provide infrastructure, but it does allow people to do something about it. The problem is that the connection speed of ADSL broadband decreases the further you get down the line from your telecom's central office. While voice calls can be boosted, those same boosters block ADSL signals. Piped broadband is effectively limited to less than 3.5 miles. That's 5.5 kilometres. Riutot de Rondon is 5.5 kilometres from this. Beautiful, but an awful lot of nowhere.
La seule solution qui était possible pour avoir Internet haut débit ici à Riutot de Rondon.
The only possible solution to get broadband here was through the alternative solution of satellite and Wi-Fi. That means a dish that receives the satellite signal and then a Wi-Fi network which provides broadband internet on the ground to locals, businesses and schools.
It's good news for the tractor retailer who can download those pesky PDF repair manuals and surf for second-hand parts, and also for the village shop owner who can check up on deliveries and the availability of merchandise. But most importantly, the fast connection means the next generation can get an online education. Children surfing can be clumsy, and high-speed connections are more forgiving.
Ils ne trouvent pas directement comme un adulte, nous on sait où on va aller, alors que les enfants, ils découvrent.
Children don't find things immediately like an adult, but they discover. They search a lot, they grope around, and it's difficult for them. With a high-speed connection, we don't waste time, and that is wonderful.
This is more than the tale of the internet's late arrival to a one-horse town. What's happening here offers a model to other remote areas, such as large expanses of the developing world, where laying cables or mobile networks might be too expensive. Our networked world might have led to the death of distance. Geography, however, is as relevant as ever.
Thanks, David. Technology continuing to make the world a smaller place. Time now, though, to witness the benefits of those internet connections, all the best sites and more with Kate Russell, our very own web mistress in Webscape.
Thanks, Stephen. I'd like today to introduce you to a new hobby of mine, animation. And whether you're interested in learning a new craft to adorn your website, or you just want to try the digital equivalent of doodling, Cartoonster.com is a great place to start. And despite the childlike presentation, this website is more than suitable for anyone starting out in animation, kids and adults alike. At the moment, the site consists of 5 step-by-step tutorials, taking you through the basic principles of animation, from using frames to create the illusion of movement, to working in the stretch and squash method of breathing life into your anims. Completing the tutorials couldn't be easier. Just follow the on-screen prompts, clicking the arrows at the bottom of the screen to move back and forth through the stages. At this point, the website's creator shows you how to animate using a paper flip book. If you've already completed some of the tutorials, click the menu view arrow on the left of the screen and jump straight to your desired stage. I was really impressed with this website, but even more so when I discovered from reading the About section that it was made by a 17-year-old who taught himself. Amazing work there, and quite rightly the website has won many awards. But if you want to get a little deeper, then this next website offers a raft of great tutorials at many different levels and in many different skills. It's simply called goodtutorials.com. Or whether you want to take the next steps in advancing your animation skills, or you want to create stunning still images, web graphics, textures and designs in general, there are literally dozens and dozens of linked tutorials to choose from here. The layout is nice and easy to get to grips with. Well, you'd expect this of a design website, wouldn't you? Just click a category on the left or choose from one of the featured daily tutorials in the main section. As some tutorials are easier to follow than others, but on the whole, I found the standard really good, with most containing step-by-step screenshots to help you along the way. And it is worth mentioning here that this site simply links to tutorials submitted by its users, so parental guidance is always a good idea for younger surfers. There is a report tutorial button in the frame at the top, which you can use if you feel any contain unsuitable material. And finally, a quick look at someone else's creative imaging. This website was sent in by its creator, a young photographer called Gautam Narang, who is hoping for a bit more exposure. Well, surely he should be checking his aperture then. Cheesy puns aside, I love the imagery in this collection. Colourful, thoughtful, well composed, and like all good artists, Gautam has really caught something special about the nature of his subjects. The layout is great too. Just click a thumbnail on the left to reveal the big picture in the window on the right. The location and date of the image shown are displayed discreetly at the bottom of the thumbnails column. Excellent work, Gautam, and good luck with your career. And there we have to leave it, I'm afraid. Thanks for all your suggestions again this week. Stephen will have the address to send more to for you shortly. And of course, he'll be supplying you with our website address, where you'll find links to all the pages discovered today, along with extra advice about making sure your privacy online is guaranteed. Happy surfing.
Kate, thanks very much indeed. It's time for us, sadly, to move out of the sunshine here on Click Online for another week. But if you want to get in touch with us, it couldn't be simpler. Email us at clickonline@bbc.co.uk. Or if you want to visit our website, and there's a lot of information about the show you can find on it, bbc.co.uk/clickonline is the address to visit. But for now, from me, Stephen Cole, and all the team, until the next time we Click Online, it's goodbye.
Hello there. It's still going to be rather windy across northern Scotland through the day on Sunday, and for many of us it will turn fresher during the day with some sunshine, but also a crop of showers, particularly across Northern Ireland and parts of Western Scotland. 1 or 2 dotted in the southeast. Otherwise it's drier and brighter with some fresh sunshine coming through, but Northern Ireland being really crowded by plenty of showers by mid-afternoon, some of them heavy and squally, quite cool in those blustery winds. Very similar conditions for southwest Scotland. Further north and east though, despite the strong winds, it will be bright with that fresh sunshine. Very similar for northern England down into Lincolnshire and the Midlands, but still a swathe of cloud through East Anglia and the southeast. 1 or 2 showers dotted around. Hopefully Wimbledon will escape. The skies brighten up towards the southwest and also up towards eastern Wales, but the winds blowing off the Irish Sea could just bring in 1 or 2 showers there to southwestern Wales.